Welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. This is TJ, the host, your host, and tonight's discussion is based off of a viewer's request, who shall remain nameless because I do respect people's privacy, but I will read some of the message and then proceed. So, this person says, I can't stop thinking about how contagious narcissism is. I mean, after their mask slips, we are quite mean to our narcs, using counter-manipulation, gaslight back, and really anything to piss them off. And he or she says, we turn narcissist. And while with them and in recovery, we stop seeing family and important people to us, which I find off, as we would never have done this before. Codependent folks, especially, as they/we seem to want to manipulate our narcissist. And he or she mentions, during the figuring out who is to blame stage we all go through when the mask slips, this viewer thought that he or she was the meanie and still wonders about it. Silly, really, but often contemplated. The viewer seems to see narcs everywhere and have used gaslighting on them and some of their people skills to make people like him or her. Made promises that weren't kept, which bothers the person, and is a different person now, or maybe just wiser. Well, here we go with the response. Now, I will begin with the fact that I did long ago do a video. I believe it was entitled, Am I the Abused or the Abuser, or something along that line, which I will put a link to in the comments if I can find it. But I think the key word here in this question at the very end actually is a statement stating maybe just wiser. And I happen to slightly disagree with the first part of the question, where he or she talks about after the mask slips, we are very mean to our narcissists, and we use the various tactics that they use, and states that we ourselves turn narcissists. And that's one thing that I addressed in that other video, is I've experienced the same thing, because I'd sit there and think about the various things that have been done, the lies and the deliberate attempts to cover up things, when knowing this person doing all this knew good and well what was going on and still chose to do it all. Well, there's a very important distinction to make here. We do not become narcissists as a result of experiencing their many forms of abuse. What I see it as mentioned before, is we have self-respect. We counter-manipulate. We play the same sick games they play in response to the fact that they've done it to us first. It's kind of like a defense. Like you're walking down the street and somebody walks up to you and throws a rock in your face. Well, normally you would just walk down the street and do your own thing, but if somebody else throws a rock in your face, you are going to stop and think, who just did this to me? And then you will take action. But that action is a defense. It's not like you were walking down the street with a rock in your hand, searching for the perfect target to throw it at and then run and laugh. No, it is defense. You are defending your self-respect. So the fact that we targets tend to engage in the same type of sick tactics these people use, if it wasn't us who cast the first stone, in many cases we are simply reacting to the fact that we're realizing that they have done such things to us first, and we're not going to just sit back and say, oh, do it again, oh, do it again, oh, hit me again, even though it's usually not physical. Well, it can be. So that's an important point to make. And plus, those of us who are educated and have a full range of emotions and can actually look at the behavior of the narcissistic person for what, and see it for what it is, which I found myself in on several occasions, where I looked at the crap this person was spewing out and I would think, this is disgusting. I can see exactly what's happening here. And what happens a lot of times is we're invested somewhat into this relationship, because chances are none of this trouble surfaced until much later, usually after their claws are sunken into us and we're actually hooked on them for many other reasons, which could be financial reasons, they could be a child, they could be emotional because we've adapted ourselves to this person, so we have all this invested in them. And because, again, usually these things don't come out right off the bat. They're not like, hi, nice to meet you, by the way, I'm a liar and a cheater and a fool. No, they're like, I'm the nicest person you've ever met. And you tend to believe it because you have nothing else to go on. And it's not until later, usually, once everything's hooked in, or you're hooked in, that these things surface. So let's say you have a child with the person, so you know, well, this is the daddy or mommy of my child, so I'm here to stay. Well, then when these types of things surface, which normally do not surface at the first, we feel like we're like here, we're stuck here to stay, so we want to make the best of it. Well, when these types of sickening behaviors appear that demonstrate nothing at all even close to the definition of love, despite all the love bombing, we feel like we're like trapped or caught. So when we start to notice the various indications that something's going wrong or something's fishy or some kind of game is being played, a lot of times we think, because this person's new or was new and all we had was good stuff, we tend to think that maybe this person's trying out some kind of new technique on us, which of course we'll find later that it's no new technique at all, but we think it is because we haven't seen it yet. So it seems to us as if this person has decided, I'm going to play a game with the partner I have, and when we see this we think, I can do better than that, even though I normally wouldn't, but since you've chosen to, it's on. And then we pull our techniques of gaslighting, we pull our techniques of manipulation in return, and our counter manipulation. Sasha Sloan has great videos on that, by the way. Plus, the other reasons many of us stay in such relationships, as mentioned before, is maybe economic. Maybe you're sharing money now and it's much easier on you, or the psychological. This person knows exactly how to touch you emotionally and physically, or at least as it may seem that way. Or maybe you have the kids. Or let's just say beforehand you were vulnerable, or you were some kind of previous target of abuse. You were mighty attractive to this person, and they know that it's a matter of keeping all the evil quiet until you reach a point where you're like comfortable when they strike. Many of us also think that we can reform this person. We, again, are basing our entire situation here based on what we have seen. So we've watched this wonderful person who is so great and made us feel so comfortable all of a sudden start these strange tactics, and we assume that, oh, it must be something new. So we, especially codependents, believe, oh, this person just has a little issue with this or with that, I'll fix that. And we try to fix this or that, but we eventually learn it doesn't work because it doesn't want to be fixed. But we still have that hope because we've already experienced that first idealization phase and think, well, I've got to get back to that. I mean, that was perfect. And little do we realize it was all a phony act. And if we were previously abused or whatever, we felt like we finally found the right thing, and then, of course, we end up right back in the clutches of an evil, wicked monster. But, of course, we don't want to believe that's even possible. We want to keep thinking back to the idealization and think, well, all we have to do is get back to that point. These foolish games, well, they're going to have to stop, and I'm going to work on that. And then, of course, we try little things. They don't work. So then we figure, well, I'll show you how much smarter I am than you are. And then we try other gaslighting techniques. And in my case, for example, I would experience a few of these techniques and think, really? Well, watch this. And then I would come up with a way more brilliant plan, which I have some videos on my counter manipulation, but I would think, you think that's all you have to get to offer? And I would think that if I would do the same thing, I could somehow shake this person back to reality to say, look, honey, that crap don't work. I just did it to you. And I would do one of the techniques thinking I could say, which again, I'm not going to go into the details of those. Those are available elsewhere. But I would complete one of them. And then once it was over, that it was a technique, I'd be like, see how that feels? Now knock it off. But that does not work. In fact, it just makes them think, oh, really? Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to do one even worse or better or whatever they want to call it. Because these are monsters. They're not real people. They are children who want what they want. And if you dare to cross them, ooh, they're going to try to come up with something even better to cross you off the list if possible. But see, I didn't know any of that, and you probably won't either, and you think that if you just do one more gaslighting exercise to show this person how stupid it is, they will snap into place. Well, guess what? They don't snap into place. In fact, if you get too good, they discard you quicker than usual because you're no match to them. You're better, and they can't have that. The other thing to keep in mind is that these people do not know love. Whatever that is, they don't know love at all. They may claim to love you after a first date, but those are just words they've heard used elsewhere that seem to get what they want out of people. So if you understand that, it makes dealing with the aftermath a lot easier because they never knew what that was. They never know what equality is with a relationship. Like when you're feeling close to them and being vulnerable and telling them your greatest fears, they're sitting there taking notes. So when you turn on them as they see it, they can engage those greatest fears and push buttons on you to try to disarm you or to destroy you, which again is sick. It's like a disgusting movie, but it's what they do regardless. And I'll recommend, if you have not seen the movie, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle with Rebecca De Mornay. It is a perfect example of how someone will behave in order to manipulate, in this case an entire family, into trusting them, so then they can systematically destroy the whole thing, or try to destroy the whole thing. Even though the opening sequence doesn't necessarily fit every situation, it's what goes on afterwards that shows the average person exactly how these people do what they do. But many of us will stick around because, again, we've been built up on this premise of love at first, but then, of course, once more things come out, then all of a sudden it turns to trash. But a lot of us, once we invest our time, we don't want to just turn away and leave because of many of the reasons I've mentioned before, and we want to keep things going and hopefully get back to that love bombing fake stage that's gone forever. So a lot of times we'll put up with these people, and if we eventually realize this person's taken advantage of our weaknesses and is there for specific reasons, and especially it becomes apparent when you uncover clues indicating a completely separate and different lifestyle than the one you've seen from day one, it all kind of falls apart in the end. And many of us don't want to accept this. We want to think that we can fix things, but the problem is with this type of individual, you can't fix it. You can't fix retarded. And all that stuff at the beginning, which I've mentioned in other videos recently, like somebody who is with you and goes on and on about how important something is in the relationship, let's say fidelity, and then you find out the same person's been running off at the hookers, you're like, I thought you thought fidelity was important, and you would expect to hear some kind of realistic, like, oh my goodness, I made a horrible mistake, and I started thinking this way and that. No, 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 you're going to get, oh, those hookers, they were just because of this and because of that. I want to be with you. And there's like nothing there, no substance to it. Superficial responses. That's a clue, too. Because the comment or the statement is, if you're really that interested in fidelity, then you wouldn't be messing with the hookers at any time for any reason at all. So you'll be getting, oh, well, I wouldn't normally, but because you ignored me that one night, I had to. Wrong. Fake. Phony. More to come.
God damn it, I told you to keep your goddamn mouth shut. I've just found out that you've been telling my new boyfriend all kinds of stuff about me, and I tried my usual lines, although he's crazy, he's just jealous. The problem I'm encountering is he found out that you're a writer, and he happens to respect a few pieces of work you've written. So now you have made it more difficult on me. Now he's thinking I'm lying to him. And if you don't make this right, I promise you, you will regret this for the rest of your life. So you tell him. You tell him
that you were just kidding and that you were jealous because you wanted me back. If you don't tell him this, I guarantee you, you will regret it the rest of your life. I know where you hide your spare car keys.